Weather is changing at a rapid pace and continues to have a significant impact on all kinds of aspects of our society. In the last few years alone, we've seen hurricanes, winter storms, tornadoes occurring later or earlier than usual, and seemingly having a lot more intensity than what we've seen in the past. Now, with me is Dan Leonard, a senior meteorologist at the weather company and IBM Business, to talk about how people can stay ahead of these weather trends. So, Dan, welcome, and great to have you here. Of course, weather, always a topic of conversation at dinner parties and at elevators and things like that. But with all these extreme events happening more and more, and you can feel like kind of the shifting of the seasons, what is really going on with the weather?
Yeah, so it's obviously more extreme than it used to be, but I think it's important to keep this in context. A question that I get, you mentioned the dinner parties. Don't forget the checkout lines at the grocery store. That's another one where I get asked a lot. But you got to remember the difference between weather and climate. So I get asked all the time, is this because of climate change? Well, I can't say that climate change is causing this, but what I can say is that these types of extreme weather events are more likely in a warmer climate. And the reason is very simple from a meteorological perspective. As we add heat, and that's energy, to a system, it means it's more dynamic. So in general, our winters tend to be warmer overall. I mean, remember the first half of winter was so warm for most of the country. And then all of a sudden in mid-January, you get this massive Arctic outbreak, record low temps, but then it's gone and it just turns right back into a warm pattern. So I think this is a classic example of the types of winters nationwide we can expect going forward over the next coming decades. It happened last year, right around Christmas. We had this really big cold shot across the deep south, and it happened the year before that. Texas had that really big freeze after a really mild winter overall. So next few decades, it's probably going to be more and more like this, where we have generally mild winters, but they're punctuated by really extreme cold shots from time to time.
Yeah, interesting. And I cover business news. I'm here at the NASDAQ. So I see the impact that weather has on companies and consumer behavior, whether they're out shopping and what they're buying and things like that. I mean, what areas can you share where you've seen the weather have big impact on consumer behavior?
Yeah, it's funny you bring that up. I actually have a background in economics, and that's why I got into this kind of aspect of weather. But there's nothing that drives me more crazy that in quarterly earnings season, when a company blames their bad quarter on an unforeseen weather event. Oh, we missed sales numbers and their stock tanks. And I think in this day and age, it's just not acceptable. You might have a great business plan, but where's your weather strategy? The climate's changing, that's obvious. And if businesses aren't behind that and they aren't prepared to take advantage or at least mitigate potential losses going forward, they're going to have major issues. And we all think of the obvious ones like airlines or insurance companies, but it's really every company is affected by weather. It's ubiquitous. And it's important to get the best data you possibly can to be prepared going forward.
Yeah, no, and how can businesses get that data and make sure that they can plan for these things? And by the way, I remember hearing like at Walmart, Pop-Tarts sell out when there's a blizzard coming. I mean, it's just the strangest things that have an impact. So how can businesses get that data and make sure they make the most use of it?
Yeah, so it's weather analytics. What we're doing is we're crunching all those numbers. If you look at raw numbers, it doesn't tell you a whole lot. 55 degrees in Miami this time of year is parka weather. It's going to drive the sales of scarves. But you go up to Boston, 55 degrees, people break out the shorts and the t-shirts. So what we're doing is we're gathering all this data, we're crunching the numbers, and we come up with some pretty interesting aspects of how consumers react based on certain weather. Here's another funny one in addition to that Pop-Tart one you had. In the West, when it's foggy, it drives beer sales higher for whatever reason. So if companies have access to these analytics, they're going to be successful. And that's what we do. Weather companies, a huge company. We're the biggest weather company in the world. We got the power of IBM behind us. So we have the computing power. We have the data. It's all there to share.
Yeah. So when I go to the weather forecast and check on the Weather Channel app, I mean, what makes it different than checking on some other weather websites?
Simple. We're the most accurate weather app out there. And I'm not just saying that because I work there. Obviously, I'm a little bit biased in that respect, but it's independently verified. It doesn't matter what metric you look at. We're always number one or very close to number one. So if you want the most accurate weather app it's the Weather Channel app. And it's no surprise, we're the biggest company in the world. We have a ton of computing power behind us, but we also have a ton of meteorologists too, over 100 seasoned veterans. And we look at the data and we're able to massage it, tweak it a little bit and say, hey, here's the best forecast that we can offer. And it shows up in the statistics.
Yeah. And of course, we know AI, all the rage over the past year or so, and AI relies on data and good data. Are you using AI, and if so, how?
Yeah, so I guess it wouldn't be a talk about technology without bringing up AI, the buzzword of the year. But yes, we've used it. We've used it for a long time. We've always called it machine learning. But in the sense of weather, what we're doing with it is we're looking at different patterns. So the computer models might tell us, hey, it's going to be this particular temperature. It's going to be a storm. But then the AI comes in and says, hey, wait, no, we recognize a bias here in the computer models, and it's not going to be as cold as you think. And then we're able to use that data and then apply it and then send out the forecast. And that's what makes the weather company's forecast so much more accurate than what you could get from just raw model data that you might pick up anywhere on the internet.
Okay, and you can get that through an app, just download it on Android or iOS.
Yeah, Weather Channel app, or you can get it from weather.com as well. Same great data.
Okay, very interesting. Dan, thank you so much for sharing today.
Absolutely, great to be here.